Annyeonghaseyo from Korea, welcome to next Matchip. Today we're cooking sogogi muguk. It's a cold day outside today, as you can see behind me. A lot of snow, so I'm cooking something warm to keep me, nice and warm on these cold wintry evenings. And that is sogogi muguk, which is beef that is then boiled and cooked into a delicious broth and put with our friend, the radish. Look, the main ingredient here is this beautiful radish. That's the mu part. So we're gonna take Mr. Radish, slice them up, and we're gonna put them in the delicious soup. Let's get started. There's a lot of snow. There's not a lot of people around, which is good because I'm walking along with a radish with a face on it, and I'm talking to the radish. You get some weird people looking at you if you do that in Korea. Hello.
Sorry there, Radish, we only need half of you, so I'll use the rest of you later. What type of beef you use is really up to you. There's a variety of cuts you can use, though keep in mind we are going to fry it up and then boil it down, so it's going to be very tender. It's going to cook for a long time. So if you want to use a tougher, cheaper sort of cut, feel free to do that. Then basically get it ready first so it can marinate. You could marinate it overnight or even just a couple of hours beforehand. I'm just doing it basically 30 minutes beforehand. Then prepare your radish. You don't need to peel off the outer layers. Those layers are delicious. Just run a knife over it or something over the outside of it to remove some of the impurities. And of course make sure you wash it, especially if you've been playing with it outside in the snow. Then slice it up into sort of cubes, not too small, not too big, but it's not going to matter too much for this dish. The radish is going to get soft and fall apart, and that's okay. So, like I mentioned, for our beef, fry it up until it gets nice and brown. Get a little bit of sort of that crispier coating on it. Let the fat sort of render out, some of that water come out of it, and then we're going to add about 1.5 liters of water. If that is too little or too much water, you can always adjust it later, so don't stress about the water too much. Just make sure the beef is covered and it can sit for about 20 to 25 minutes. Then check to make sure it's tender. Once the beef is tender, you can start adding in the radish. So if it's not tender, up to your standards, just cook it for longer. It's not going to matter. The longer you cook it, actually, the better. If you could cook this thing for 2 hours and get that sauce ready, it'd be even more delicious. Once you add in your radish, re-season it again with a soup so that we're going to get a nice sort of flavor to the soup as well as the meat. So the meat is seasoned, the soup is seasoned as well. After about 20 minutes, that radish will be really soft and perfect. So make sure you taste it at this point because you're going to have to season it now with salt. You don't want to use soy sauce or it'll get too dark for our soup, so use salt and a bit of pepper. And just adjust as you go. If you think it is too salty, just keep boiling it until the water's gone. And then add that green onion. And it's basically ready at this stage. Now, like I said, it really is up to you. Just go for maybe another 5 minutes if you want and it'll be perfect. But you could probably cook this for another 20 minutes and it'll be even more delicious. This is one of those soups that the more water you get out of it and the more broth is in it, the better the flavor is. So I do recommend giving it a nice, good, long cook if you have the time, but if you don't, it's still going to taste great. The soup is often better the next day as well, so if you can make a big pot of it, use a lot of that radish, a lot of that water, when you come back the next day and heat it up, it's going to be a little bit thicker and a little bit more full flavored. Great soup. Put it in the bowl to serve and just eat it as it is. Enjoy!
I've lived in Korea for nearly half my life and I love cooking Korean food. If you're interested in Korean cooking, then check out my channel. I post a new Korean recipe every single week. So hit that subscribe button and like the video if you enjoyed it. Alright, let's eat this thing. Hey little buddy. The longer you cook this, the more delicious it is. So let's try the meat first. It's well seasoned, nice and salty, and nice and soft and tender. Let's try one of these radishes. Ooh, let's get a big guy. Oh, perfect. Look at this one in the middle. The radish is just about to fall apart, so it's so soft. And it's got that beautiful flavor of the meat inside it. Perfect. What about our soup sauce? It's not too dark. It's got lots of garlic in there, and seasoned perfectly. Not too salty and not too bland. So you can always add a bit of salt or some pepper later on as you're cooking it to make sure it tastes exactly the way you want it. And if you want to really get a good kick out of it, let it boil down a little bit more and get rid of some of that water. If you take about maybe say a fifth of the water away, it's going to taste even better. Alright, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to put him away. We'll use him on another day for another recipe. Thanks for watching and annyeong haseyo. See ya! Annyeonghaseyo from Korea. Welcome to next Matchip. Today we're going to do braised radish. Sorry little guy, it's the end of the road. Ah, good memories. Walking along, the radish with the face on it, and I'm talking to the radish. To do our braised radish, it's one that I've been meaning to make for a while, simply because I love the way the radish tastes when you cook Dulgirem-mu. So if you check out my recipe for Dulgirem-mu, you'll see a really delicious sort of slow cooked beef recipe. It's fantastic, and I love the way that the sort of flavors come out that match with the radish. So I want to try to do that sort of similar flavors, but this time without the meat. So we're basically just going to take the sauce that I use for that, and we're going to put it with this. It should be pretty easy. Let's see how it goes. Good luck.
If you drew a face on your radish with marker, make sure after you peel it that you give it a quick wash, otherwise it could be a little bit dirty. Now how you slice it up is up to you. Just remember this rule: if it is sliced smaller, then you need to make sure you cook it for less time, and if you slice it in bigger pieces, you're going to cook for longer. Do the edges here with a peeler so that when it is cooking for a long time it starts to get soft. They're not going to break apart and fall into your soup, so you're still going to get nice good pieces of radish that aren't breaking at the edges. Now here's our delicious sauce. This is my galbi sauce. So if you want to follow this sauce recipe and put it with braised meat or even chicken or almost anything that you're braising, I highly recommend it. It has a perfect sort of amount of water to sort of soy sauce ratio that it will boil down over about 40 minutes to an hour to exactly the right consistency that you want. So any food that you're going to boil for about, or braise for about an hour, then this is the perfect ratio of ingredients for a perfect sauce. And then obviously you can adjust as you go. So throw in a few things here. I've got some ginger. You can take the ginger out if you're not a big fan of ginger. I just am a big fan of ginger, so of course I love to add it in when possible. Also, ginger is not always the most Korean ingredient, so even though this is Korean cooking, we don't usually add a lot of ginger to dishes like this. Give it a good stir because you don't want any granules of sugar, or at least you want most of the granules to have dissolved into the sauce before you pour it on your radish. Speaking of which, let's pour it on the radish. This is so easy. Get your pot, pour it all over the radish, make sure each radish is covered. If it is not covered, you could probably add a little bit more water. You'll be fine. You're going to boil this for a long time. That water is going to disappear. So give it a good stir, make sure everything's covered like I said, and then you're going to cook it for about 40 minutes. So let that boil on about a sort of medium-low heat, and it will just simmer away while you prepare the other ingredients and take a rest. You can skip the peppers if you don't want it to be sort of spicy. It doesn't make it that spicy, but it does add a tiny little bit of extra flavor to it. But you can take those out. In addition, you don't even need the mushrooms really. I just got these because they were on sale, and I thought it would be good to add to the dish. But remember, the radish is the king here, so this is a radish dish. So just pick things that you want to put in there that will match your radish and make it taste perfect. After another 20 minutes, because you got to cook those mushrooms down, you can add in the pepper. Now, this is the point where we take that lid off and we let it boil away. We want all the water to disappear until it sort of gets sticky like that. Look, ooh, so now it's ready. The sauce is almost ready and the radish is definitely ready. So let's fry these radishes on a pan to give them a nice sear. Now this is a very cool sort of part to it. It just gives it a little bit of extra flavor to each radish. And it looks cool. It sort of caramelizes some of that sugar on top. Now often you might do this with meat before you cook it or before you braise it, but in this instance it works better after. For cooking or like frying radish when it's raw is kind of weird. See, look at that sauce, it's really thick. Now you could serve this on a bed of rice, maybe one radish and a few mushrooms over a bit of rice with a little bit of the sauce on top, and some sesame seeds as well, and you've got yourself a perfect meal. I'm not gonna lie, that radish is soft. This is one of the best things I've ever cooked, and it got all thumbs up from my wife, which she doesn't always do. She's honest. When I don't cook it well, she lets me know. Wow. That slices apart so easily. Beautiful. I've already tasted some of it. Look. Oh, wow. This is so good. Oh, my mushroom here. If you like mushrooms, this is definitely for you. This is the dish you must cook. This is an absolute winner. I can't wait to cook this again. This is how you eat radish, alright? Look, 안녕히 I'm heading off because I want to eat this. Thanks for watching. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're staying warm if you're somewhere cold. If you're somewhere hot, I hope it's summer and hope you're having a great time. So, till next time, check out the channel, subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and see ya. Annyeonghaseyo from Korea. Welcome to next Matchip. Today we're cooking with radish and Dulgirem. Dulgirem is sesame seed oil. I love cooking with it. It's a great Korean ingredient. So we're going to combine that with oysters, with radish. We're going to braise the radish, braise the oysters, make this lovely sauce to put on top. See how it goes. Let's begin. So this recipe comes from Yourisa, which is culinary class was on Netflix, and I've always wanted to cook up a radish steak. So when I saw the recipe, plus it uses my favorite ingredient, Perilla oil, I had to cook it. So here we go, I've got my delicious radish. I love using radish and I love frying it up. It has such a good flavor when it's fried up. Now you don't have to do it at 5 centimeters thickness. You can do anywhere from 4 to 3 is fine. Make sure it is thick though, or it'll get too mushy and soft when you braise it. If you do have it a little thinner, for instance 4 to 3 centimeters, then all you need to do is make sure you're cooking for less. So I'm going to cook mine for 50 minutes. Cook yours for 40 if it's 4 centimeters and 30 minutes if it's 3 centimeters. Take the edges off as well, so obviously take off the skin too. And you won't take the edges off because they're going to fall apart as it starts to soften up and cook, and it'll sort of ruin the outside sort of shape of it. You should do this whenever you're braising any type of radish or carrot. You'll find you get a better sort of effect out of it. 800 mils water, make sure it's mostly covered. It doesn't have to cover all the way. You can just add more water if you really want to be sure, but you're going to flip it anyway, and it is going to sort of, braise or cook and boil with the lid on. So there we go. Put the lid on, and that'll make sure it gets a nice even coating. At about the 25-minute mark or the middle part, flip them over, and then let them keep going. Now we can see something strange here, which is that sauce is thickening up and sort of getting browner, which means, when you flip it the second time, it's going to be a bit browner there. So what you could do, and what I would do if I did it again, is just do another flip. Flip it a little earlier and then flip it again maybe for about 8 minutes. How are we doing our oysters? So put all this oil in, get it frying, get it hot, throw in the oysters, and once you put the oysters in, they're going to sit in the pan for about 5 minutes. Keep stirring it, you don't want it to burn. But as you do it and you cook it at sort of a medium-low heat, you'll find the sauce thickens up really nicely, and you'll get this beautiful brown color on the oysters. And you know it's ready when, the sauce is thick and the oysters are brown. This is the hard part. We're going to make the sauce. Now, put in your potato starch here. Make sure you have a very low heat and give it a stir. See how it's all thickening up? But it won't work perfectly. If this is all you do, you'll find that it'll very quickly get runny. Add a little bit of water. Now, you can use any water, but I'm going to use a little bit of this brown water from our radish dish to give it a bit more flavor. Just a little bit is fine. If you need, add a tiny bit more if it's not really sort of coming together. So water plus starch plus oil and sugar, and you'll get a beautiful sauce. Just remember, do it on low. And then the last step, fry up our radishes. Get a nice hot pan, so medium heat, and fry for about a minute on each side. Move it around, look, make sure it's sitting nicely. Turn it over. Now this side I could have probably cooked for a little bit longer. I really want, like, there we go, look. It's not burnt, it's perfectly cooked. I want that brown, and you really do want that because it's going to add a little bit of extra flavor to your radish that you're not going to get if you don't fry it up nicely. There's my sauce, look at that, perfect. So a bit of sauce on top. This is quite a thick sauce. You might find that yours might be a bit runnier. That's okay too. It'll still work out perfectly and it'll still taste good. And then a little bit of wasabi. Add the wasabi. When you'll see, go to the end where I eat it and you'll see the wasabi is a game changer. Speaking of which, let's eat.
This is ready to go. So I'm gonna bring you in. Come in a little bit. Let's see how it cuts up. The radish is very soft, which is good because you don't want a big chunk of radish. Look at that. Wow. Okay, now do so you can see. Whoa. That's beautiful. Does it taste good? Let's find out. Better than I thought. I could definitely improve this. I think a little bit more sugar in the sauce and maybe a little bit more of the water from the broth and put that with the sauce on top. One of these oysters. Look at that. Alright, that sauce might be bland. Those oysters are fantastic. And put them together. Now that's the combination. That is fantastic. That is actually amazing. Oyster, wasabi, sauce. Oh yeah. Oh, that's, wow. Alright, my expectations were pretty low, but all those flavors work so well together. So thanks for watching, cook well, and have a good day. 안녕히 Annyeonghaseyo from Korea. Welcome to next Matchip. Today we're making Gakdugi. Gakdugi is a Korean side dish with cubed pieces of radish and a spicy red pepper sauce. After we've sliced up our radish into cubes, we're going to take it and mix it with these ingredients. And then after 4 to 5 days of waiting, you've got this beautiful fermented side dish that just tastes so good. It's got that sort of sweet and sour sort of taste. It's sour taste in a good way. If you've ever had kimchi or types of kimchi or any kind of fermented vegetable, you know the taste I'm talking about. Let's begin.
This is a daikon radish that we're going to use, and my one's about a medium size. We also have some red peppers. I've got about 6 red peppers here. You can adjust that accordingly, though keep in mind Gakdugi is supposed to be quite spicy, so red pepper is very important. This is seojot, it's sort of salted shrimp. We're going to use a little bit of that, and it's quite key for the fermentation process. I'm also using apples. Some people like to use Asian pear as well.
This green part has a lot of flavor in it, so we're going to keep the green part, but we'll peel the white. Perfect. Alright, let's slice this thing into cubes.
Try to get your pieces of radish as you slice it up to be as evenly sort of sized as you can. However, it doesn't have to be perfect, so don't stress too much about it. Once you've sliced them up, we need to actually prepare these. So a bit of salt with a bit of sugar and then give it a really good mix. Now this will sit for 40 minutes, at least 40 minutes. You can do it for a little longer. And then during that process, all the water's going to come out. So we'll come back to that later. Let's prepare the other ingredients while we wait. Slice up your leek. You don't need this to be too thin, though you can do it a little thinner than I'm doing here if you like. I just don't really care about the leek that much, so I just put big pieces in mine. We're going to mix that in with the radish at the end. Mix it with a bit of fish sauce as well, gives it a bit more flavour. Asian pear is a great alternative to apple if that's available. It's often quite expensive, especially if it's not in season, so use apple for a simple fruit to put in your sauce here. You don't need to worry about how sort of thin you're slicing this up because all these ingredients are going to be put in a blender soon. So give it just a quick rough chop to make sure that's going to blend up easily. So put them all in the blender, just one by one. I am adding something here in a second. We've got some cold cooked rice. So that's just going to help out to sort of thicken things up a little bit, get the right consistency we're looking for in the sauce. Got our salted shrimp that I mentioned, and now we're ready to go. So blend that up and we're going to put it on later. Now I mentioned that we were sitting our radish for a little bit, and you can see the liquid. Get rid of that liquid, but do not wash the radish. You want all the sort of salt and sugar that's on the outside to stay with it, and it's going to add to the flavor in the fermentation process. Add our red pepper flakes, try not to spill them all over the bench like I did, and then give it a good mix. This is our first coating, and this coating of sort of these red pepper flakes is going to make things more evenly sort of mixed in with, you know, the red pepper sort of flavor that we want and that spice that the gakdugi needs. Here's our sauce that we blended up earlier, that beautiful red color, and then just make sure we're mixing it in nicely. As much covered sort of as we can. Throw in our leeks that we sort of prepared earlier. Just give those a rough mix and keep that sauce. So, you know, they've got a bit of the fish sauce is still in there. Make sure that is included. It'll add more flavor as well. So a lot of opportunities to add flavor to this. You can also taste it now if you want to make sure you're not missing anything or if it's not too bland. But basically it's ready to go. We're going to put it in this container and we're going to store it for at least 3 days before we try to eat it. Though the longer you store it, the better it will be. Let's taste.
Oh, I think this one looks good. Oh, no, not this one. Oh, no, this one. Yeah, this big guy. This big one looks good. Look at that. Ah. Delicious. Oh yeah, that's so good. But they're going to be even better after more days. So this has been about 3 days after. They've still got a little bit of crunch to them. If I let this sit for about 1 more week, they're going to be so delicious. Thanks for watching. I hope you get the chance to try this at home. It's a really easy recipe to make, and most of the ingredients are very easy to find as well. So it's a great sort of starter kimchi. If you're interested in kimchi and the fermentation process, then give this one a go as your first one, because it's fairly easy to do and it's quite hard to mess it up. Hope you enjoyed the recipe, hope you enjoyed the video, and 안녕히 계세요. Thanks for watching.